What's the point in reviewing this? It's been done already. Everyone has
It's not going to do what
I don't know. This game is too old for a review. It's pointless.
It's not going to do well.
Why is this game any good? Why is this game any good? No, I really want to know. Please tell me.
Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a dark fantasy action-adventure game developed by Ninja Theory, and it's available on all mainline consoles. The game sees you playing as Senua, a Celtic warrior who is trying to rescue her lover's soul from the goddess Hela by journeying through Helheim. On her journey, she'll fight with gods and creatures from Danish and Norse mythology, but she will also be fighting with the voices inside her head.
No one will ever know. Oh, she heard us.
These voices in her head are a constant pressure from the start of the game, and they are constantly making comments about all the actions that you're performing. Making comments such as, turn back now, or, oh no, you can't turn back. They are sometimes helpful, but for the most part they just sort of comment about what you're doing and are generally pretty negative. The atmosphere of this game, though, is absolutely stunning. This game recommends that you use headphones, and I would 100% follow through with this recommendation. It's more of a must-do than a recommendation. The sound work in this game is absolutely phenomenal. The voices that you hear inside of the headphones will either come very prominently from like the left or the right side of the headphones, which stands out from the rest of the atmosphere wonderfully. And the actual atmosphere itself is so brilliantly done. There was a point when I was wandering through one of the earlier levels and it started to rain, and with a rumble of thunder, it sounded so real that I looked outside of my bedroom window thinking that that's where the noise had originally come from. And while we're talking about confusing things inside the game for things outside of the game, the graphical fidelity of this game is something to behold. Now, I can't play this game in 4K because my computer is not good enough, but that doesn't matter. The 1080p textures are amazing, and it works with those textures and those stunning sort of environmental effects to emphasize the idea of the mental illness that this game heavily works with. The game will use what you see to bring attention to that. The lighting will dramatically shift. There'll be suddenly loads of grain, and there's this constant chromatic aberration off to the side, making your vision just sort of feel constantly a little off, and it constantly kind of puts you on edge. The gameplay itself is split up into three main parts. The exploration sections of the game see you wandering around these amazing environments that are very clearly, very lovingly crafted by the developers. You can really tell a lot of effort has been put into these, and while you're traversing around these environments, you'll be doing the normal action-adventure stuff of shimmying across very thin ledges, climbing up very obviously climbable walls, and you'll generally be following a pretty linear path. But that's fine. In a game like this, being too sandboxy or open-ended wouldn't actually add anything to the gameplay, and if anything, it could make it feel worse. But that's not to say that there's no point in exploring at all. There are secrets to be found throughout each and every level. There are these rune stones which can be found throughout the levels and give context and extra story beats to what's happening. Most, if not all of them, being voiced by the character Druth, sort of the mentor to Senua, and while some of them are pretty easy to find, they'll just be along the main path. Some will be really out of the way, and they'll take a bit of searching to find. These aren't the only things that are hidden around the environment, but I don't want to ruin the discovery. So while you're traveling around the levels, you'll often come across these puzzles, which is the second part of the gameplay. And these puzzles are actually really interesting. It involves you having to find a rune to unlock the path ahead. It sounds simple, right? But how do you go about finding these runes? You'll have to move around and explore the environment looking for a rune hidden and created by the environment. Like early on when you're looking for this rune, and the first time through I was looking for it engraved into a wall or glowing somewhere. But no, the rune was in a shadow that was created by some roots and a hole in the roof. I really enjoyed the puzzles, but in the larger environments, it got a little bit frustrating when I thought I'd found the right thing, but the game just hadn't recognized it. But I kind of guess that adds to the satisfaction of when you finally find the right place. You go, oh, right, yeah, that makes so much more sense than what I found. And let's not forget the last major part of this game, the combat. And the combat in this game is a perfect example of simple and effective. You have strong and light attacks, a dodge and a block button which used at the right time will parry attacks, and lastly a sort of shield break type attack. They flow into each other really well, and it's really simple, but it's polished to feel incredibly smooth. And it's made better just because it's so simple and so smooth. There's nothing complicated to it, which means that you can learn the key fighting controls in your first few fights, and everything else from there is just getting better at the fighting, which just makes you feel better at the game, which makes you feel better for playing the game. But say you're struggling. You can't quite get past this one fight, or something just took you by surprise. Well, that's where this game's lives system comes into play. You see, Senua, early on in her adventures, contracts this dark rod, which will slowly creep up your arm every time you die, and if it reaches Senua's head, then your game is over, and your saved data is deleted. From what I could tell, at least in my playthrough, they are quite generous with the lives. I never even came close to it, even after dying like 10 times. So, if that dark rot and the threat of permanently deleting your save data didn't put you off, is this game worth it? Well, if you're looking for a new adventure game, with a great story and mechanics that are simple enough to understand quickly, but are deep enough to be able to be used throughout the whole game without becoming overused or dull, then this game is absolutely worth it. But this game is about 7 to 9 hours, and there's not much to do after you've finished it. And if you're wanting a longer experience for the price that you've paid, then maybe it's not for you. But if you have even a little inkling of curiosity, and you have something like Xbox Game Pass, where this game is included in the price, then absolutely this game is a must-play. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. The voices at the very start of this video were provided by these lovely gentlemen here, whose YouTube channel links will be down in the description. And I'm trying out a new green screen. I don't have the right lighting set up for it at the minute, so if you've noticed any sort of weird, kinky, horrible mess, sort of like a nice outline around me, I don't have the right lighting, and this is a cheap green screen. It's better than what I had before, but it's not great overall. If you like it though, don't forget to like it. And if you want to see more stuff like this, maybe consider subscribing. And until next time, did you know I'm English? Cheerio.